Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. You guys sit there trying to decide the best way to handle the situation, deciphering through the laws, so on and so forth. As the Amber is kind of sitting there and working through it with you, one of the things that they notice, they're like, hold on. This is like after like an hour of hour and change of kind of pouring over this stuff. They're like, a lot of these spells here, they seem to be of divine in nature, and of course you've said as much, at least about some of them, in what we've conversed about so far. These, can you prove that these were divine spells?
One does not simply know. It's rather difficult to summon Momik.
Nobody here is asking for you to call a god. How about this? So, the Arcane Congress can't... as far as my understanding is, and I don't work for them, and this isn't a portion of the law that I am a master of, but as far as I understand, what they detect is residual magics. Magics after they've taken effect. They can pick them up. They then subcategorize these magics into different, we'll call them schools. They have their own school names. And then there's, of course, the parent words for them that we know, like necromancy and conjuration and stuff like this, right? Well, these different schools, magics, no matter what source they are, can be categorized into these same schools, yes? So we just need to do the best we can to prove that they are of divine in nature, which in theory falls outside of their purview. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't still claim one way or the other. They're in theory, there's not supposed to get between one person and their faith, so long as it doesn't cause any disruptions, any dangers made from these castings. If we can't prove that they are divine in nature, we need to do the best that we can to prove that we don't know they're arcane in nature, right? So one of the things that we can do is we can actually ask them to put us on trial. When they put you in trial, they cast a spell. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It creates an area where one can only speak the truth. They have three options. One, speak the truth. Two, don't speak at all. Or three, try very hard to resist the spell, resist it and then lie, but then the person who cast it very likely will know that you resisted it and lied. So the best thing is to always speak the truth. In that scenario, phrasing is extremely important. Luckily for us, gnomes are kind of long-winded. They will ask yes or no questions, but sometimes they can appreciate longer responses. So, of these accusations here, let's kind of work through them one at a time. I suppose the biggest ones, the mass creation of the dead that walks these lands. Source of this.
Divine.
Do we have proof?
What sort of mortal is capable of raising an entire country's worth of undead instantaneously?
We can't prove that it was instantaneous.
We can ask the
every citizen of Idir can attest to that fact.
Sure.
The great light shone across the countryside, after which the dead rose.
And again, this also, because we are in a place of mole ruins, we do want to provide as much proof as possible so they don't go snooping about looking for artifacts or the like that might have been left behind that could have done magic such as this that you've gotten your hands on. You don't want to be accused of handling illicit materials. Then all of us are going to be in trouble.
With what you said then, how do we prove that it was not arcane?
We ask them to ask us. within a area of truth, within a zone of truth, our firsthand account of the situation. Not me, of course, but anybody who may have witnessed it.
One would simply state that it was done by the ascension of a god. That is the truth, as I understand it.
Then we will speak the truth, of course. Now,
I will not be put on trial by these gnomes. Rayron, if you wish to...
I'm going to interject
this,
here.
that is
I'm going to
on you.
interject here. That is wrong. You shouldn't make that decision. If you do that, it looks like you're intentionally trying to hide things. If you have only one person of the leadership that's willing to go on trial and one who's not, that sounds like we're putting up a puppet, one that can spout the words that they want to hear while the other knows the truth and is hiding. If both of you have the same perspective, then for everything that we speak the truth on, you should both give the same account.
What's to stop them asking different things?
You don't have to answer.
Their scope.
You don't have to answer.
Do not answer.
Are there rules to what they can ask and what we have to answer?
You are... Again, I'm not a master of these kinds of trials, but what I can tell you is this. The only questions that you answer are the ones that you are willing to answer. There is no there's no compulsion to answer the questions, right? They don't handle magics like this they don't use magics like this, as far as I know of at all, but certainly not when handling the leadership of a nation, right? Even if this nation is small, they're not going to do that. That would be some serious act of aggression. So you can just choose not to answer any question they ask. And if they ask a question that you think is out of turn, honestly answer, I think your question is out of turn. And then we can handle it from there. So I'm not sure what you mean by what they're welcome to ask. They can ask you what color your briefs are today. I wouldn't answer that question, even if they are a nice pastel.
He gets a glance from Rayron. Sure you're not, but you. Very well. We muddle through, and if it comes to it, then I will submit myself to such an inspection.
I think anybody who can give the same account should step forward and do so. And I think that the more people that you do put forward for these accounts, the better, because it shows more solidarity.
Very well, let us think. One was present at Leon's resurrection. Leon was present at Leon's resurrection. That's 2 for Leon's raising back to life. The teleportation, 2 instances. Many of the advisors witnessed this. Elliot, Kithel, they all witnessed that this was done by Nankaro's power. We do not have the ability to transport others far away without his. He stops himself, realizing he said Nankara.
Yep.
And then, what were the other instances? The mass raising of the dead is arguably the easiest to prove. It's inconceivable that they would come and demand this if they believed we were truly capable of that. I suspect we would be experiencing a full-blown invasion.
If I had to make an assumption here, I would assume that they're have raising concerns about how this happens. They're putting an accusation on here just as a means to divine the actual truth of the matter and whether or not they need to send people in to handle the situation. That would be my assumption for specifically the dead. Very well, maybe the only reason why they're here anyways. And you kind of like you guys worked through the list like we were just discussing. And then it's like, but this list of other spells, I was speaking with what's his name? Counselor Mann here. And the counselor was saying that there is no recollection of the casting of these other spells. And so he kind of...
What spells are they?
1 second. The counselor starts going over the different spells that are there. Like, yeah, these are are strange ones. There's, let's see, there's a spell here that specifically there's a spell here that allows a bunch of blades to wreath around a person. Wreath of blades, I think, is the easiest way to translate the name of this spell here. There's also types of masks that are put on here. There's something that's meant to obscure somebody from being divined. Of course, spells like this aren't meant to be seen, so the fact that they have a record of this being divined, they're divining the mask of divination, even if not necessarily who was doing it, just seems to me a little peculiar. There's another spell here where someone is able to reach out and contact an entity from another plane of existence. Again, Elliot says he has no recollection of any of these kind of incantations being cast.
These would appear to be results of the curse. I know the Wreath of Blades is directly related to the curse.
So, by the curse you mean the Mall Magics?
I mean the mole curse that held place until the Chosen broke it.
So, have you seen this Wreath of Blades before?
I have.
Where?
I saw it at the hands of the previous wielder of this. And he would place the sword upon the table.
Well, that is a Mull artifact.
However, I do not believe that this spell contravenes their laws.
That is a Mull artifact. Okay. We're gonna play this one. We need to get ahead of this one. Prior to them, prior to us offering to give a full-blown account of our innocence through the spell that puts us into the zone of truth. Not us, of course, you, but puts our side into the zone of truth. Prior to that, we need to admit guilt on a few things. Just say that you had a scroll that you needed to use during a battle against the undead. Admit guilt. Admit to having used a spell that you came across a scroll that way. Give them something. Admit guilt to it. It's a lie, yes, but they're not going to actually punish you on this one. There's going to be a slight warning, so on and so forth. I promise you that admitting guilt to a spell that you believe came from this sword is far greater than admitting that you have this Mull artifact in your hands. They will confiscate it.
Very well. A lie is easily done. In this scenario, it is for the best. I hate to think what the sword might do should they try to take it.
Honestly, the sword in your mind is...
Confiscate their heads!
sword in your mind is being a little bit aggressive at the moment. So, but at the same time, also wants
Would you
to
say
try
it's
to...
being violent?
As more or less, it's like, I'd like to see them try to take me. But anyways, so you
be fine words.
He says, as for the others, the ability for one to mask divinations.
I'm afraid I'm unsure.
Then we answer honestly to this one. And
is this known to have occurred within the lands of Kurzful itself?
It's
within Valorant?
According to these accounts. According to these accounts, it has. How about the ability to contact a creature from another plane?
I believe Nathan possesses such an ability.
Nathan?
When was this detected?
They don't give dates. Not in what we have here.
Because I have no idea anything about that.
I don't know. If you honestly have no idea of the casting of contesting another plane, then we put that one openly and on trial.
Nathan, I believe, is capable of such magics. He draws elementals through.
Does Nathan hold a position in your court?
He does.
Okay. Inform them that you know of a druid. That is he in Idirian? Is that what you call yourselves?
He is not, as far as I'm aware. He's of nomadic stock.
Perfect.
Druids.
Inform them that you know of a nomadic druid that has the ability to contact other planes, and that you weren't aware that his utilizing of those spells was illegal, and that you'll, of course, see to addressing the issue moving forward. All of that is honest, because you will see to addressing the issue. How you address it, we can keep that vague. And then, is Nathan around? Can he give a testimony?
He's due south.
Perfect. Nathan is not here.
He is busy. He has many duties as a marshal in a land ridden with undead.
Do either of you know when he's going to return? And do not tell me when. Do either of you know when he's going to return?
I have not the faintest.
He looks to one.
I have an idea.
Perfect. Then, Rayron, you're going to be the one to answer this question. He is not here. The situation will be addressed. And I don't know when he's set to return. But as soon as he does, at the most opportune moment, I will handle the situation.
Very well.
It is the truth if you do not know the truth. Sorry, he's the truth. It's the truth if you don't know the fact.
Very well.
Well, this is, we're walking on thin ropes here. How do you not have a lawyer by now? He says, kind of chuckling.
Sorry to interrupt. Just that planes one. How? So there's law against that.
The magics you use to contact creatures of another plane are, in fact, illegal.
Is that due to the power of the spell or the nature?
That's a good question. I'm not a master enough to answer. And he'll actually look over to Elliot, and Elliot would say, I'm in fact very familiar with the spell, and it is of the tier that they would call savant. The spell known as contact other plane.
What about just summoning something from another plane here?
Depends on how it's getting summoned, I imagine. What spells are going to be used. Things like this, there's generally speaking, there's very specific spells that are cast or rituals that are enacted to allow things like that to transpire. If you're just talking about a simple summoning spell, I believe summon monstrosity
has done so in the past, and they are clearly not raising charges.
No, because most people don't have the ability to cast spells so powerful as to raise concern. They're generally much, much weaker.
One day when I was experimenting, managed to summon two small fire creatures.
Where was this?
Back in Harrod, just when I was trying to figure out how any of this worked.
That actually brings me to my next point. I mean, I'm going to just be frank here. I don't give a shit about Harrod. It's not your land. And the reason why I bring that up is because this one here that Elliot had pointed out, it looks like the accusation of what transpired here is actually a situation that apparently took place during the war inside Vigil. Now, of course, I was around at the time, and I didn't put two and two together until Elliot had pointed it out. It looks like they're trying to
Yes.
hold you accountable for the summoning of the specters inside Vigil, even though...
Yes, that occurred. We were aware of it, and the individual has since perished as punishment.
It looks like... I don't know why they're trying to hold you accountable for this one. And that is... I think this one is where let's openly and honestly take guilt for things that we cannot answer. Let's use the truth as a means to fight back the things that we can't answer. And things like this, get aggressive. How dare they? How dare they place accusations such as this in lands that aren't yours upon you? The inadequacies of them. Are they so incompetent that they can't properly draw lines of whose land is what? Put them on their heels. Again, then also let them know that they're in your land. They will send more representatives, but perhaps ones that have personality.
That would be a rather nice change, I think.
Again, I didn't witness what you're describing, and I never have before. So.
Very well. Shall we get to it then? This waiting is making me nervous. Much rather get into a battle than stand on the eaves of one.
And he, of course, what time is it? He says, and kind of like there's no window in this room, right? So you guys are looking to expect to meet with them like 7 or whatever in the morning. It's probably about 7 a.m. So where do you guys go? What do you do to freshen up?
I'm going to ask both Rayron and Ilan if they can detect magic around, because we've been spied on by these fuckwits before. So I was wondering if they've, decided to just throw up some things.
I wouldn't have thought they'd be stupid enough to do so again, but yes. He gives you a look, being like, "God damn, one, you're so paranoid."
It's my paranoia.
Meanwhile, Ilan gives you a look like, yes, that makes sense. We should check.
You guys can, of course, cast your spell, but also, most importantly, for sensors, you're rolling an intelligence check. If you just kind of like go out in your throne room and you stop and you contemplate for a moment, you can roll an intelligence check to see if you pick anything up.
Oh, wow.
Perfectly balanced. As all things should be.
Cool.
We have the exact same modifier as well.
Mm-hmm. That's why Raren likes little baby Ilan.
So,
once we are all ready, we'd send the guards to go and wake them up.
So, they actually
Obviously
would be.
drop the
They would
spell
already have
before they
been
get
awake, because like I said, it was about 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
They've already been awake, and again, they were being distracted by Ravina because you sent her to kind of like buy time. So they come out of their room at about 7 in the morning, and it's one of those things where then 7:15, 7:20 rolls around, and you're like, oh, Ravina must be doing a good job distracting them. Do you want her to buy more time, or do you still send the guards to go and retrieve?
Let her buy more time so we can chastise them for being late.
Sure.
I just realized I have to note this, Scott, because this is something that would be happening and may come into play. Once again, I'm reminding you, I am wearing the goggles of the goggles that are in fact magical, and he would not be taking them off. So, but I felt I should warn you that that's a thing that is happening.
Ravina went into their room, and time passes. 8 o'clock rolls around. 8:15, 8:30.
Now we send a guard.
You send a guard to knock on the door, and the guard would go there. 8:45 goes by, and then guard comes back. Yeah.
Okay.
And heads down, and they're like, Chosen, there's apparently a situation inside the Arcane Congress's chamber. What the hell's her name? Ravina. She is inside their chamber, being spoken to by the two of them. I only heard a small bit before I opened the door, and then of course they sent me away. It sounds like they intend to take her after they're finished here.
Very well. I think perhaps we should make our way up to the room and invite them to attend the meeting that they so desperately wanted.
Okay. You go upstairs.
I would look to the Amber Jewel is there, right? I would look to them and say, she has not broken any of their laws. They have no right to take one of our council, correct?
Do you know that?
I'm saying, though, that just answer the question as I put it to you, though.
If she broke none of their laws, no, they have no right. If she did, then it all depends on what country the laws are broken in and how the punishment was handled by the rulers of that country and so on.
So if she did, do we have any leg to stand on as far as making them refusing them her?
Yes, I believe we might. Ravina possesses a role within the kingdom which is extremely important and only recently acquired in the detection of contravening of Arcane Congress laws. If they were to take her, then we would very much struggle to manage such situations. In fact, there may be very many more instances where her watchful eyes not paying attention.
Also, if it's not the Arcane Congress's laws that she's broken, they couldn't possibly attempt to enforce all of the nations they're allied with laws and extraditions of every single individual that's a member of other countries. Surely that's not something they could do.
No, they don't care about anybody else's laws. It would only be their own that they would be interested in. And what you suggested there, Rayrin, was that her position and title puts her above the law. In the eyes of the Arcane Congress, no individual is above the law, including rulers of nations themselves.
It does not put her above the law. It puts her in accordance with the Arcane Congress's laws.
I'm not going to. I don't know any of the details here, and so I'm not going to refute your suggestion. I'm just. Good luck. I haven't had time to contemplate this one.
Rayrin would gather a few guards, go up, and he'd get them to boot down the door.
I would go to
kick it or just open it.
Kick it.
Okay, so they
this
burst in the door.
Bang! Yeah.
So they burst in the door, and one of the Congress members, like almost as like an instinct, reaches into the robe, grabs a wand, produces it, and aims it out there, and you can start to see like the beginnings of magics forming at the tip of the wand. But then when they see that it's a guard wearing the uniform of your nation and so on and so forth, they kind of like let the tip of the wand drop down several inches or whatever, and the magics at the tip of it end. Yes?
Rayrin would step in. Master Congressman, my name is Rayrin Corvain. I am the chosen of the Arbiter within this kingdom. May I ask why it is that you have not attended our meeting that you so fervently requested?
There is a more impressing matter that happened to take place here. We have an important meeting that we need to have with one another about the laws, but we can hold off that meeting for a different day.
We have it now. Downstairs to the throne room. Now. We will have refreshments provided, of course.
When you take that tone and everything, he then allows his hand, the wand and everything, to drop fully by his side, and then he turns like shoulders, body, everything full on to face you, and says, "As I've said, we have very important matters here. Against you, there are accusations. Against her, there are proven crimes committed. We need to make sure that this is the correct person that we're going to be apprehending, and then we'll go downstairs. Our proof
Master
is almost...
Congressman, you have traveled throughout my lands, yes.
And I've been interrupted by you, yes.
And you understand that there is currently an infestation of undead. I too have a very many great pressing matters, and I would appreciate your speed and compliance.
The other one would chime in and say, there are lives at risk. And so he, kind of hearing it from the other one, says, very well, I will stay here and confirm that the detection is correct and completed. He will go with you and oversee the investigation.
Shall I stay here with Ravina then?
It's not necessary.
I wasn't talking to you.
Nonetheless, it's not necessary.
May I ask what the proven accusations are?
I cannot divulge such information unless I can prove who the person is. As soon as I can prove it is in fact her that is guilty, I will gladly show to you all charges. But it is private information until I know that it is a person that I am taking from your custody.
Of course, Mr. Congressman. I understand entirely. Guards, if you would be so kind as to escort Ravina to a cell and lock her until the congressmen are done, at which point we can attend to this matter. Of course, we are upholding your laws. I presume you will have no issue with this.
As I said, I will stay with her and finish the confirmation because magic requires a degree of concentration. Luckily, this conversation is simple enough that I can maintain it while we're having it. Nonetheless, we can relocate ourselves to a cell.
Very well.
And so they start, everybody will kind of like move to the second congressman. Will not go all the way down to the cell. They'll actually stay inside the throne room with you guys. And the first one does go all the way down, of course, with her to be locked up.
He obviously he can't be in the cell. That's not appropriate for someone of his.
They can be outside of it. That's fine. Because of the way that this barred windows, he has line of effect and he has proximity, so he'll be able to maintain his concentration. And he'll be fine. And so I imagine you just have guards bring her down there, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Roll me.
Can I try and catch her eye?
Yeah.
All right, I want to try and catch her eye and more or less convey, to her, are you in trouble? Actually.
Okay. Roll me a sense motive.
I was going to say I'm going to sense motive too, and then I'm not even remote. Oh my god, never mind. But I would sense motive just because I want to know what's going on, and Ilan's deliberately not talking at the moment, so he's just gonna.
She is she conveys to you, which is kind of like a look like I'm in trouble. She's just trying to use innuendo there. She's trying to convey to you as privately as possible, I'm in trouble. Okay. So, anyways, she,
as we head to the throne room, I would give one a look because one is obviously as perceptive as I've seen him be. It would be the look of what do we do? Do we help her?
He would just kind of shake his head a little bit to you.
Just nod like that nervously.
When you guys get downstairs, and again, finally the meeting doesn't start until about 9 in the morning, right? When you guys finally get downstairs, things can kind of proceed fairly well, where they start putting forward all of these accusations, but now with actually more, or with more definition. So first and foremost, there's the ones that you are going to admit fault to. So there's a couple of minor spells that you're going to admit fault to, including, of course, the utilizing of a scroll with the wreath of blades. The person that's actually telling this lie is...
I don't know anything about the fucking
Rayrin.
thing.
Yeah.
That'd be Rayrin. So you're going to have to roll me a bluff check there, boyo.
Fuck.
Utilizing a spells like fallback strategy is something that they might be able to. Okay. So they don't press the issue any further.
Do you wanna lock it now?
You can.
I don't know how many luck we have left.
I
Four.
told you 4.
I think
at the
someone just
moment.
gave us another one, actually.
Yeah. Okay,
As Steve
then.
just spoiled, technically you have
So-
6 at the moment. Because again, we just have to assume that the goddamn API is never going to work again.
It's not working.
It's not
It's so frustrating.
nice.
They don't press the issue any further. Then they so there's a couple of different spells that they kind of go over where you just like, we can't prove one way or the other, so we just admit fault to it. And then it comes to the ones where you need to use the zone of truth. So we're going to kind of like pull the scene to that one, because the other ones you're just going to openly admit fault to it. It's just like, these are such minor infractions because they're individual castings of spells that you're claiming are coming off of a scroll, so on and so forth. We didn't fully understand that those were outside of it. Perhaps if we had stronger guidelines, we can utilize that to make sure that we don't make these mistakes moving forward. That whole thing, like, I'm sorry for what I've done. I have broken this law. I didn't realize to the extent of which I broke the law. May I have better guidelines so I can be better in the future? You know, it's one of those minor things, right? The second thing that you're going to do is, of course, he kind of pulls to. So the way that we're going to have to handle this is I'm going to cast a spell. Now, in this area, there is going to be an effect that takes place. Anybody who's in the area can only speak the truth. Now, there might be one or multiple among you that are extremely strong-willed and have the ability to outpower my spell. It's unlikely, but very well, it could happen. It has before. In that case, if you're able to outpower the spell, you could actively choose to tell a lie, even though the spell is put in effect that says that you can't. If you were to resist the spell, I won't be able to tell whether or not your answers are lies or the truth, but I will be able to tell that you have resisted the magics themselves. I can see it when it flows through you. I can see it when it doesn't. So if I cast a spell and you're resisting it, any word that you speak will just be assumed to be a lie. So you're just going to have to willfully take the spell and allow it to wash over you. That being said, I will ask questions. The only words that you can speak are true words. Are we all prepared for this?
That's awkward. Rayron's disappeared.
Yes.
Poof, what have you done?
Called it. He said he'd disappear exactly when he needed to be there.
Exactly. There we go. He's back there.
Yes, that's fine.
The first thing that I would like to is, so he casts a spell and you can feel it wash over you. Nobody here makes a will save, I presume. He says first,
Does it affect everyone in the room, or like, how's it
everybody
work?
inside of the area? And one of the fun things that you see is you actually see he finishes the spell, and the first thing that happens as soon as he lays down that spell is you actually have what's his name there, the Amber, who hadn't been in the meeting yet, who actually has not. He kind of like went to go gather a few things, so on and so forth. We'll join the meeting at this point, try to utilize the dramatic effect of the entrance here. And he walks in and says, pardon me, Congressman. My name is Sunstone. I'm a representative of the Jewels of Eroth. I happen to, of course, be an Amber Jewel. Welcome, Jewel. It's a surprise to see you here. Indeed, as it was a surprise to have your arrival at 2 a.m. last night, but of course, pleasant surprises on both accounts. And the gnome says, unfortunate sometimes how things happen to play out, but we, of course, will all move forward jovially. Yes, in fact, moving forward jovially is the reason why I'm pulling your attention, is that what I want to pull the attention to. I would ask if you could please jovially move forward about 2 steps. Pardon? I noticed that you cast a spell that forces everybody in the room to speak the truth, but you happen to be 2 steps outside the parameters of that spell. If you wouldn't mind taking those 2 steps forward, allowing the spells to wash over you as well, we would all appreciate that. Well, I suppose I could do that. And, of course, because it's important that we all can trust one another in this scenario, there happen to be a few casters that sit on the seats or standing adjacent to them before you. We would, of course, like to have one of those casters cast a spell that allows them to detect that the magics have, in fact, washed over you and are functioning on you as well. Of course, I'd be willing to make this concession. Good. I'm glad to hear it. And he will also step into the zone as well. And then the gnome does as well. Would one of you like to cast Detect Magic?
Ooh. I nearly did it, then I'm like, wait, no.
Can't both of us do it?
Yeah.
No. You said told Dylan to keep his abilities under wraps. Dylan won't do it.
Fair enough.
Roll me a spellcraft. If only you're doing it. Only you roll a spellcraft. Schmeckshy. You can. It seems like the zone of truth has washed over this gnome, and everybody else. Everybody is willingly allowed the spell to affect them. The gnome says, "Well, with that aside, and welcome to the meeting. I suppose the thing that we're most interested in asking about is, well, there is a sea of undead out there, and this, of course, raises concern not only to the citizens of Idir, but also to the parameters, to the perimeter of Paradel. There have been lives lost on both sides of the border because of this travesty, and we want to know exactly who it is to blame for this. So, truthfully answer the question. Did you create the undead?
No.
Did you utilize an artifact to create the undead?
No.
But you do know how the undead were created. Of course, you keep a tight grip on your own nation.
To the first part, yes.
All right. How were the undead created?
Master Congressman, do you understand the concept of a god?
Of course, we all went through our basic lessons in magic when we were younger. These powerful
course.
entities that refer to themselves as deities, I'm familiar with.
Yes. I mean, a congressman, of course, you would have basic lessons. This was done by the ascension of a god who attained the full rank of a divinity, at which point a bright light washed out upon the land and the dead rose. It is my understanding that the dead rose from the past several hundred years.
Excuse me one moment. He goes over, opens up his book, reads through it, comes back and says, "The spell is working on you, yes?"
Yes.
Goes back to his
You
book.
are welcome to check.
He goes back to his book and then kind of like runs his finger down a page and says, "I see here that you have made a similar claim about a year ago. Are you trying to tell me that in the span of, we'll call it 13 months, 2 gods have risen to divinity?"
What do you know about Valoran? The leaders' titles. Tell me, what are they?
Yes. Of course, I understand that you refer to yourself as chosen and that you claim that you are picked by gods. I'm not going to question
Yes.
your theocracy, but 2 gods risen to power in the past 13 months?
Yes.
Surely. Well, you're speaking the truth. I believe you are speaking the truth. No, of course. I imagine there must be something in the bread here. Let's move to the next one. Did you let's continue with the dead. There was in fact a situation here wherein someone was conjured from the dead and brought back to the living.
I believe that this was done through the use of a scroll by a subordinate.
You believe? Does anybody here know? He says, interrupting you. One knows he was there.
I would say
It was a casting.
it was. One would flat out say it was Vrogar's will that he was returned. I don't have that power.
again, claiming that a god did it.
Master
Yes.
Congressman, I understand your skepticism, but be careful that it does not stray over towards heresy. And he'd give him a winning smile.
He says, I have, if not personally handled, certainly read the case studies of many different theocracies and many different divinely appointed leaders to various nations and so on. And there, of course, have been claims that gods have cast spells, but inevitably we find, of course, the cleric or priest or whatever shaman, holy man, or otherwise was the one that actually was using the spell in the name of the god, as opposed to the god itself casting these magics. Because let's be honest, if it's a god, do they really need to cast spells? They could probably just will it to happen, yes? So that being said, who cast the spell to return the person from the dead?
We prayed to Vrogar for him to be returned.
We.
Yes.
It wasn't one, it was several.
There were 3 of us.
So it was a ritual, not a standard spell. Unusual. Ritual magics, well, certainly not illegal, are extremely rare.
May I ask, this is the Arcane Congress speaking. You don't presume to have authority over the power that my god gives to me. You don't presume to have authority over the gods.
Gods, should they exist, would stand above
But they do
moral
exist.
laws. Of course. What matters is the safety and well-being of all people of Eroth, or all of Aurorum for that matter. And so if there are spells being used that put the safety and well-being of all people in danger, the Arcane Congress presides over that. Now,
But I'm sorry, this isn't arcane matters. Some of the things which you speak of are matters of the divine. It has nothing to do with you.
allow me to set aside perhaps a misconception of that we're handling here. I'm using the I'm using the title Arcane Congress because that's what it was named centuries ago. However, why don't we just say Magic Congress? Because Arcane Congress really just means magic.
I'm sorry, but you can't be telling me that you presume to tell the gods who they give power to, what power they give, and who uses the power that they give them. I'm sorry, but I'm not learned by book or anything else. I do not speak your language of magic.
We know of
my
your
power
ignorance.
is given
It's
to me.
pretty blatant.
So maybe that this should be spread amongst all of the holy of Aurorum, that the Arcane Congress assumes divine right, and they are above the divine. They are above every god and every practitioner of those gods.
Oh, we
and
don't
they
have
wish
these-
to subjugate
No.
everybody.
We don't have
No
these
one.
problems in other countries because they follow the laws.
Let us not accuse the good gnome of heresy. Instead, let us be blessed that we do not share his lack of faith. I understand that the congressman here simply wants to ascertain that we were not using this magic for an illicit manner. I can assure you that the man raised by this spell is good and wholesome, and that through his life many more lives have been saved. The reason he is not here before you is because he is out among the undead, slaying them. If you can tell me that that is not a just cause, then, well, I frankly will not believe you.
Have you ever heard of somebody returning from the dead prior to all of this?
For sure, it is a rare and unlikely magic.
There's a reason why it's rare and unlikely, you can imagine. If people just had the ability to just return who they liked back from the dead, imagine what kind of people could come back. Generally speaking, the people that have that kind of power are the people that you don't want to have that kind of power, yes? Now, I understand that this is a ritualistic casting, and so it stands a little bit outside of the normal purview of the Arcane Congress's laws, because it's not an individual person casting a spell. It's a ritual. It's a combination of lesser magics that kind of come to one apex that happen to have a very specific result. So, assuming that this is the truth, that has not actually broken any laws, but if one individual person had the ability to do all of this, to bring back whoever they wish, just this aside from the laws, would that not concern you?
Of course it would, indeed. We can see here today that the power of necromancy is a dangerous tool indeed, whether it is wielded wantonly or with scalpel precision.
Exactly. I agree. I'm glad that we agree wholeheartedly and we can find this middle ground to work off of. Now, let's continue to build off of it. So, understands that when I am coming here with my perspective, I'm not coming here and saying that the Arcane Congress is better than your Vroga. I'm not coming here and saying that my perspectives are better than yours. I'm simply saying that we are here to protect people. Now, if you use a ritualistic casting utilizing multiple people claiming to their faith and it brought back one individual person, then this most likely is perfectly legal within the laws of the Arcane Congress. But if we had one individual that had the ability to raise 5 people from the dead in one day's span, and could do that every day over the course of an entire year, bringing back over 2,000 people over the course of a year, who were those 2,000 people? What were they doing in their lives prior to their death? How long from history can we pull people back from? These are questions that we don't want answered. These are things that best let the dead lie. That aside, I'm going to have to look into this matter further. It's very likely you didn't break any laws. I have another one here that I needed to look into. It seems as though there was a conjuring of specters.
Continue. I do not appreciate this vague, open-ended question.
I'll be a little bit more pointed. Did you conjure specters?
No.
Were specters conjured in your kingdom?
No such thing occurred within the bounds of Valorin.
Truly.
Master Gnome, if you do not trust in your own magics, then I suggest you find someone who you do trust in.
I have here a specific record that says that there is a specter that around the time that all of this transpired rose in your kingdom as well.
Please read the full
You would
details
be-
to me.
He goes over reading through it. It's unfortunate because the specter that's in reference here is something this is the reason why I was honestly most curious about this one myself, because generally speaking, we can come to a small understanding of what it is that's being raised based off the nuanced details of the magics being detected. Perhaps if it was a human or an orc or the like that was being summoned, but the race that's on file here is no race on file. And the specter that's being raised is no specter that's been traced before, which means that there's very likely masking magics used to obfuscate who or what was raised and what method they were done to do so, or there was something strange and different that was brought back here. Now, you're saying your god brought back all of these other dead. Was it your god that brought back this new and different specter as well?
Afraid that you have given us few details to work with. Do you know the location?
I'm not aware of any spectre.
Yes, but your
being
ignorance in magics has
summoned or
already
anything.
been, of course, spoken about thoroughly.
Excuse me, if you continue to insult me, you will be asked politely to leave.
My apologies.
If you refuse, and then he just looks.
He says, my apologies. I was simply stating facts.
You will not speak to me that way again.
So you spoke the truth in saying that, which means if you spoke the truth in saying that, then that means that you have every intention of stopping him from being able to accomplish that moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so you say that, you will not say that to me again. And he raises a wry smile at you, and he sees like you kind of challenging him, and he's giving you like a challenge accepted look back. And he says, please, you of course have the ability to detect specters.
I do not.
Oh, okay. You said that you did not detect such a specter being here. What mastery or understanding in the detection of specters do you wield?
Well, I did not summon it. I have no knowledge of anyone summoning it, and quite frankly, I do not believe that there was any specter raised here.
Yes, you didn't specify a location that it was raised at.
I unfortunately cannot pinpoint exactly what coordinates this person would have been raised within, assuming, of course, it was a person. But I do know it falls within your lands because we're able to, with a degree of fuzziness on the borders, detect whether it's within the boundaries of your nation. Now, could it have been on a parameter, maybe just outside of your borders? That is possible. There is a degree of a margin of error that has happened, but the detection of this is finite enough that it suggests that it is very much within your borders. The only reason why I'm even mentioning that there could be a degree of fuzziness is because we don't have all those other finer details we would normally be able to have, which leads me to believe either A, obfuscation magic's utilized to hide this intentionally as it happened, or B, something was created that's different than our understanding and created out of something that is different than our understanding. The former does seem a bit more likely than the latter. Someone actively obfuscated our detection of whatever it is here within your boundaries.
You state
So somebody more powerful than yourselves.
Somebody more powerful than the detection magic says they're seen from afar, but not necessarily more powerful than somebody actively looking. Let me not try to measure magical strength here. They might have powers that a detector might not wield. The detector could wield those, could discover them.
Understandable. And you also said that you couldn't say with 100% certainty
From
that it
afar.
happened here.
From afar. But now that we're here, and there seems to be a raised eyebrow across the table, I would like to, I suppose, clear up the matter. If you are claiming innocence in this, complete ignorance to the matter, he says, with again that little wry smile on his face, then I am asking for permission to do a thorough investigation of the raising of the specter within your borders so that I can ascertain who it was that had this transgression, that did this transgression, so we can bring them to appropriate justice.
If someone is raising specters within our land, then I would like for that to stop. Would you be able to give me the most precise location you believe it occurred at?
Unfortunately, it says that the magics are... It's hard to describe how it is you read these things, but I will give you the most layman explanation that is easily understood. It says it is closer to the heart, which means not near the borders. Closer to the heart is kind of changes depending on the kingdom. Sometimes close to the heart could refer to near to the ruler or rulers of the nation. Sometimes it could mean the capital city. Sometimes it could mean a place of import. It depends on the nation. If I were to guess for your nation, I would say near the capital.
If I may
But it could
raise a
be-
hypothesis that this refers to the heart of Idir?
It would refer to the heart of your nation, but if... Again, because the degree of the scale of these detection magics are a little funny, it could extend technically beyond what your legal borders are. This is why things get funny. if the nation itself, the people within the nation itself, and certainly the rulers of the nation itself believe that what is beyond their borders belongs to them, even if legally they do not. And this is where a degree of fuzziness comes to play.
Comes with having divine right.
He'll
believe
actually,
he's just
he'll
solved his
legitimately
own
chuckle
riddle.
at that one because you caught him off guard.
Rarian would look to one. If it is outside the borders, I know of one instance of spectres being raised.
Yeah, just the one. Not in our lands.
Indeed. And the person responsible has been put to the sword.
You are referring to?
As you understand, as your colleague said, they cannot divulge unless there is certainty. In this case, I would not divulge my potential allies' secrets. However, I can tell you that that person is dead.
One moment, he says, and he kind of like turns and flips through his book for a minute and reads a couple of pages. And he looks up and says, Vigil was an ally of yours during the war. If you're referring to Vigil, that's actually, well, where I'm going next. After my meeting here
Good
in
luck.
Cruiseville.
Good luck getting there.
He raises an eyebrow.
We've been unable to ascertain their welfare in the current plague. Any aid you could lend them would be splendid. It would truly show the goodwill of the Arcane Congress.
I personally would not be able to lend any degree of aid because it is outside of my expertise, but I can assess the situation and certainly call in aid if that is what needs to happen. If I were to be perhaps a little too liberal with my understanding of this current situation, I probably will be calling in some aid to assist Oliver Idir right now. This is, of course, a rather unfortunate situation that exists in this land, and these people are unduly suffering from the raising of some evil god, and we need to see to it that the people have a degree of relief.
I agree. The Arcane Congress is not well thought of here. It would be good for you to change their minds, at least in part.
You're never going to win over all the masses, are you? So back to the specter inside of your homeland. I do ask for permission that I am able to conduct appropriate research and discover where the specter is.
No. Because there is no specter in our lands.
Can you prove that?
You said yourself that it may be what we may consider our right, or it may be where the heart of the chosen is themselves. We fought a war. There were specters. Not by our doing. It could have been exactly at that time. And I will not have you trampsing around for no reason. We have not done anything.
Are specters intelligent?
They are. Well,
Great.
let me take this back a moment. Some are, but we don't know which one this is. And to address what you were just saying there, may have, possibly, potentially. These are all questions. Questions should be answered. You don't know. And I think you would want to know what is or is not inside your land.
What would this investigation entail? You could cast another one of these spells within the kingdom and pinpoint it exactly?
It would probably take upwards 72 hours for me to accomplish it, but yes, it would be more or less walking around and very gladly under the supervision of some of your guards or advisors, if that's what you prefer, and just utilizing a few spells to eventually discover where it is. And if after we do discover it, and there is one, then if the collection, a destruction, and certainly understanding of what it is, since there's so many more questions,
you'll forgive me here, but you have, not you specifically, but the Arcane Congress has endeavored to place things to spy on us here before.
We don't remember that.
Do we really not remember that part?
And Carl took care of it for you.
Yep.
I thought that was in the bit before that he took care of, but
nope. The only one safeguards to have remembered that was Valen, you know. So,
well, if I don't remember, I wouldn't say it.
Poor Will. So he's too busy. The thoroughbred of evil is right, so beware. Anyways, so do you respond in any other way?
Nope.
I see no reason to put the people at risk.
What spells exactly?
Detection spells that will be used to go about. I mean, I can label them all out or at least have them put before you. And this isn't a decision that I need this instance. We can finish the investigation and then see whether or not we're going to put that forward. And I actually do say this next portion truly apprehensively. But if I were to go back and say that I could not definitively prove that you were not at fault for this, that does leave the question of who is at fault for it, and it would inevitably fall to your shoulders as the rulers of the land. And considering that I truly and honestly believe that you are innocent of this crime, as I truly and honestly believe that you are innocent of the crime of the creation of all these other undead that are here, whether or not it was a god is a different conversation, of course, I truly and honestly do not want that responsibility to fall on your shoulders. I want you to be held responsible for crimes that you do commit, not ones that we can't discover who committed.
In that case, Master Congressman, if you would be so kind, after our meeting is done, if you would be able to write up a list of the spells you will be requiring to catch this, then perhaps I can find spellcasters within the realm who may be able to assist you.
Are you familiar with our structure?
Perhaps somewhat.
I'm a savant. If you are truly innocent of everything here, you likely do not have any savants here.
Very well. If you wish to face the spectre alone, be my guest.
I'm not looking to necessarily face it alone. I'm looking to discover it, and gladly underneath your supervision. But none of your people are going to be able to utilize the magics required to discover the spectre.
If there is a spectre here and you discover it, and what if it discovers you and attacks you? Have you ever fought such things before?
I have means of escaping. I would, of course, my hope is to discover it. My hope is to have you handle it. And if you are incapable or unwilling to do so, then I can contact the Arcane Congress and have them handle it. But I assume you'd be willing to at least give a go at it.
I imagine so. Very well. As a preliminary, we will say yes. However, it is pending the list of spells that you'll be required to cast. Obviously, we will cooperate as we are able. Is that acceptable, Mark? We're not giving him free roam. We're simply allowing him to assist us.
Of course, I mean, we do not want a spectre in our midst, especially one where you can't identify it in the first place. It must be some new type of thing that you haven't encountered before or something.
The choice whether to allow this investigation can come later, yes?
Yes, of course. There are other details on here I wanted to get through to make sure that we hold you accountable for what the crimes that we've already admitted to and so on. At this point, we're actually going to have the other gnome comes walking back up the stairs. He's got, RBF going on.
I presume you were successful?
Indeed, I was successful.
Perhaps you could elucidate us.
Of course. You are familiar with who that woman is, correct?
Ravina, yes.
Are you familiar with her last name? Covell.
Corel?
Covell.
Covell.
Ah, I'm surprised she told you the truth. Well, that's highly unusual. Yes, her name is Ravina Covell, and she, of course, is guilty of multiple accounts against the Arcane Congress. She apparently has been a busy girl inside other borders. Now, she is, as far as we can tell so far, and depending on how this investigation has gone in my absence, she has not committed any crimes here. She has, however, committed, been accused of, and convicted of crimes inside other lands, and she has, well, escaped them. She has escaped persecution.
You did very well there to avoid my actual question. I asked what the crimes were, not a history.
He thinks for a moment, and oh hey, what's up, Tyler? How you doing, boyo?
Oh shit!
Hey, Big Ray.
Hey, Tyler.
Oh my lord.
Howdy,
Oh
Raiders.
shit!
So he says
Is he in the zone of truth as well?
he would have stepped up and into it, correct?
Okay, good.
Okay. I would kind of look to Rayron and motion, probably as he's talking about, to see if he's actually under its effects or he tried to resist.
Could I do that?
You would have to recast the detect magic spell.
Rerum will say, if you don't mind, you may have noticed that you stepped inside a zone of truth. Would I be able to ascertain it, that it is affecting you?
Are you?
Am I?
We said, would I be able to? And he says, are you? Like, are you able to?
Yes, I should imagine so. I'm asking for your permission.
Oh, you're asking if you may cast a spell. It's your kingdom.
Rerum will remember that.
Yes.
Spellcraft.
Oh shit!
You can see it is not actively affecting him. It is, in fact, affecting the other one again. You've already ascertained that.
You were saying her crimes?
Well, she has been convicted of many a crime. Utilizing of some pretty high tier spells is very unfortunate. Literally, there is a spell that exists out there that allows you to simply point your finger at someone and they drop dead where they stand. She has used it. She has used spells where she has been able to literally peel her face off and share it and switch it with somebody else, even if only temporarily, gruesome as it may be. She's been convicted of many spells, and she will be held accountable for these things. Don't you worry. She has been a nuisance in many other nations and likely would have been one in yours. We will see to it that she's no longer.
May I inquire, Master Congressman, why you told me all of this, not under the effect of your colleague's spell? Are you attempting to be duplicitous?
He says, of course not. I don't stand on trial.
Ask
I think
the other congressman, please, Rayron, if you would.
Is it possible for a congressman to be subject to a zone such as this that allows them to speak the truth?
You asked the other one? Of course, anybody can be subjected to one of these spells. However, during one of these investigations, it is not a law that we have to stand within its boundaries and allow the magics to wash over you. And then before anybody responds, the Amber will chime up and say, however, it is customary as respect to the nation that you are in that you do so we can have trust going back and forth between both sides. And the gnome that was there the whole time responds saying, it is in fact a custom, not a law, but it is in fact a custom that we generally follow through with as respects to the rulers of the nation that we're investigating.
When Rayron said that he wasn't under the thing, can I do a sense motive to then think about what he said and how he said it, and essentially knowing that now that might have been a lie.
You can roll a
Yeah,
sense motive, yeah.
I would bluntly ask the other, knowing the one that is under
Fuck.
the effect of his spell. I
That
would
is
say,
a two.
has your colleague lied about anything that he's just said?
I honestly am not familiar with who Ravina Kovel is, beyond just a quick little briefing prior to your barging into the room that we were in earlier. He's actually would use the word bursting into the room that we were in earlier. He, from what I understand, she is in fact, well, I'm going to be speaking honestly about crimes that she's committed in other nations that stand outside of the purview of the Arcane Congress as well. She's a spy. She's a spy.
But it's not inside the purview of the Arcane Congress.
I'm just trying to paint a picture here of what crimes that are in the purview of the Arcane Congress that she's utilized. But
okay, one thing before you start.
Please.
Could you just answer my original question, though?
Please re-ask.
Has anything your colleague has said been a lie?
I don't know.
Can
I would assume, he then says, I assume not, because why would we lie to the leaders of another nation? The other one just says RBF.
Well, can I ask that it is a conscious effort to resist this spell, yes?
It can be a conscious effort. However, he says however, and then he just drops off.
No, continue. However.
And he gives a look to the gnome next to him, like, sorry about this. There are certain items, artifacts that could exist that one may have on their person that makes them immune to the effects of spells such as this.
Is he carrying one of these items?
The gnome will raise his finger. He says, it's a ring of mind shielding. It stops pesky would-be nobles from trying to enter my mind, trying to glean information that they do not, that does not belong to them.
I see. I hope you understand if I request that you leave for the remainder of this meeting. As you can see, there is little trust and respect between us. In fact, I would argue, he glances towards the amber jewel, that you have shown us disrespect through this act.
He says, there is no law that states that I need to have the spell wash over me, and I honestly do not care about the respect between... so he does. I honestly do not care about your respect. You're harboring a criminal. You've been accused of many other crimes. You've even admitted guilt to some of these crimes.
You know that?
I do.
How did you find that out from down in the cells? He will turn to the other. How did he find that out from down in the cells?
You see the other one? You don't even need to roll a sense of motive. He's just kind of like, He says, well, a censer was placed into the throne room last night.
I see. Who placed it?
I did.
Because of
So
your
you-
honest admission, as you have done with us, I will overlook this. However, your colleague will have to leave.
The Amber would actually step forward and say, if I may be so bold as to advise in this situation.
Go ahead.
Please, Master Sunstone.
With the exception of your decision to allow them to investigate for something so dangerous as a specter being inside your borders, you can, of course, come to your own conclusion as to whether or not you want to allow such things to happen. For the sake of this meeting, these accusations, everything that's going on here, I think they can, frankly, fuck off. They've done nothing but be disrespectful for people that they're asking to maintain a truce and a mutual understanding with. And they've come in, been disrespectful, even if honest, along the way, insulted one of the rulers of this nation time and time again, I mean, if you were to walk up to the Arcane Congress and treat them this similarly, how would they handle it? I think that, frankly, they can fuck off. You can choose for them to further that other investigation, but if they want to further this one, they should send other representatives, ones that are a little bit more amicable, and beyond that, ones that perhaps understands the nation of Idir a little bit better and the way that people here like to live their lives. Coming in and espousing laws and whatnot of another nation, how disrespectful. Who cares if one of your advisors broke laws in another nation? That is not our responsibility here to uphold. Who cares if she broke Arcane Congress's laws in another nation? I see no specific citation put forward about this, and certainly they're going to have to put out a warrant for such things to be done anyways. They carry no warrant with them. They're just throwing their weight around. She should stay. They should leave. And we can handle this moving forward if they choose to come back and reapproach it.
I tend to agree. He looked to Reagan, and then he looked back to the other one. You're a respected member of your order, are you not?
This
Jules?
is to the Jewel.
Yeah.
He nods and says,
Would you mind... Sorry, John.
No, he just nods.
He says, would you mind drafting a letter or a report to maybe send to your order to let them know that the Arcane Congress deals in this way?
I'm going to be honest with you, Chosen, as has been requested by the other Chosen. Every word of this meeting since its beginning, when I was standing on the balcony up above, has been recorded. Every single syllable has been recorded, and of course I've trained my mind to memorize these things, so in case other jewels look to gleam in my mind, they can see it as I saw it the entire time. They will get a full record of this situation. It will be put into the archives.
Thank you very much.
Master Sunstone, thank you.
Nods.
Given the developments, have either of your feelings on the current situation changed?
The one that had shown off his ring and whatnot says, no feelings have changed. You want a warrant for her arrest? Very well. I will get a warrant. I will come back, and she'll be mine.
No. You will not come back. You've been disrespectful and rude. Someone else will come in your stead. If you step foot inside the kingdom, not as a member of Arcane Congress, but as an individual that has disrespected its leaders, I will have your head. Do you understand?
He goes to open his mouth to say something, but the other one, also rude, but a little bit more amicable, actually will kind of cut him off and say, we fully understand that that this representative of the Arcane Congress, not as a representative of the Arcane Congress, but as an individual, is not welcome to return here. But
Thank you.
I want to be clear, if he is sent back as a representative of the Arcane Congress, specifically, and he just lets it linger.
So what you're asking is for me to not send him back. Rarin laughs.
That's okay. And they both understand that. You can get like almost daggers, like evil eyes coming from the one that you just threatened. From this one, he just nods in understanding. And he will then take like a step and a half forward and say, this meeting has gone sour. For that, I am, he says, this meeting has gone sour. For the way that the situation has unfolded, it's regrettable. But nonetheless, I implore you to come to the correct decision on the further discovery of this specter. We do not want such things being here. Otherwise, I will give a full report, and I do still believe that the Arcane Congress should come and help mop up the mess that has been left behind by some god. Can we at least agree on the undead as a greater problem, and that we should contemplate searching for this specter?
I agree that we should contemplate searching for the spectre. However, as you've said, this meeting has gone soured, and it would leave me with a bitter taste in my mouth to have you wandering around the castle. As such, I will need to consider carefully this decision.
Would you be able to remove the sensor, please?
I can.
Would you remove
Will
the
you?
sensor now? Please.
I will. He
Will you
says, and he
remove
takes
any other sensors within the castle or the
He-
kingdom?
As he was taking a step forward and you say that, he'll stop and he'll look at you and say, there are no other sensors. Beyond, of course, the ones that stand outside the whole perimeter of Idir and looking for the spikes of magics that normally exist and exist outside of the purview of your request. But for this specific one, of course. And he does reach up and you can see kind of like something becomes almost like a little marble or something comes into view and drops down to his hands, and he takes the thing and he rubs it until it's no longer shiny or whatever and it becomes dull, and he places it into a belt pouch that he has. I will, I suppose, ask one last question. You have not fully come to that conclusion. You also do not necessarily want us meandering about.
Indeed.
Until you come to that conclusion, may we remain, and the other one tries to chime in and says, we're not going to remain. Be quiet, please. May we remain in the castle until you come to that conclusion, so that we can see whether or not I will be able to further discover whether or not the Spectre is here.
Will you attempt to spy on us?
I will do nothing beyond, of course, be a gracious guest, staying within the parameters of locations that you deem appropriate for honored guests.
In that case,
Okay, so-
it would be our honor to entertain you as a representative of the Arcane Congress who has shown a modicum of respect. However, your friend must leave now.
You're referring to the other one? He, again, looks a little, these emotions aren't overt, right? Because they're well practiced in subtlety and whatever, but he does seem a little, thrown off by that, and he says, we travel in pairs. We don't travel individually because then one could easily be corrupted or overpowered and so on. We travel in pairs. If I am to stay, he is to stay. If he is to go, I am to go.
Can you ensure then that he does not overstep himself?
The gnome says, decisions were made. This is the rude one. Decisions were made. I will, of course, make sure that I follow all of the Arcane Congress's laws to the T.
You could be lying. I don't trust you. To quote Master Sunstone, Raren, I believe this one should fuck off.
I do believe that was the quote. It pains me greatly to hear that you come in pairs when you clearly are the better half of the two. I might suggest that we will be unable to entertain your investigation due to your partner. Although it pains me greatly, I would much rather find this spectre as soon as possible, should one exist. Perhaps we will conduct an investigation in the meantime, even though you say it is fruitless. We may well find evidence of spectres if we cannot detect it properly. In the meantime, I believe our business here may be concluded.
I am personally very interested in this specter. It is under the purview of my life's work, detecting things like this. If you do come to any conclusion, could I request that you would contact me directly?
What was your name, Master Congressman?
He will produce something from his pouch, and he will step forward and walk up to the throne and go to hand you. It almost looks like a small little crown. It could be worn as a ring, right? That's how small it is. But it looks like a small little crown that's there. And he says, Finnegan.
I see. In that case, Finnegan, I will take your request under consideration.
Finnegan, would you mind telling me your partner's name as well, please?
It would be good to include if we decide to raise a complaint.
My apologies. He says, I'm sure he can tell you his own name. He says,
But we don't believe him. He seems to be a liar. So would you mind at all?
he will actually chuckle at that. And it's one of those things where you can tell that the reason why he's chuckling is because it comes off as, like, even your request there, your statements, so on and so forth, to him, it just seems childish. Like, I don't believe he'll tell me the right name. It's like you can tell that he's clearly chuckling. Unfortunately,
I am a childish. I am childish though. So
I know. So it's just, but I just being clear that he is like chuckling at one on this one, and he says, "Of course, his name is Naghite."
Remember that one, Master Sunstone.
He says, "I will."
Really, Scott? Really?
I quit.
And he then says to you, "That ring, if you need to contact me, you put that on. That'll contact me directly. Are you familiar with sending the spell sending with the?"
I believe I am. I can send you a message of approximately 30 words, something of the sort.
Correct. Now, mind you, that is a savant's level spell, so it has the ability to utilize magics that are generally speaking outside the purview of what you're welcome to do. Allow me to give this.
I trust I will not be incurring more crimes by using it.
I'm giving this to you as a gift. Let's call it an apology. It allows you to reach out to others, and it of course has an enchantment on it that makes it so that it is not to spike concerns. It has an enchantment that allows it to be seen as permissible magics through the Arcane Congress.
I am pleased that you offer such reparations. It has done much to mend some of the rudeness that we have been shown today. And I pray that you go knowing not that we mean you ill will, but must respect ourselves if we are to respect our people.
Thank you. Gentlemen, because there's not a single woman up there.
No, they just, questioned the woman on the couch.
Yeah, they kind of took her out of the picture here.
Gentlemen, he says, I'll be heading to my room to gather my belongings, and we should leave shortly. And with that, I'm gonna take a pee, and then we need to bring Will into the.
We need to get Will in there. Jesus,
poor Will.
Will's like, can I just start waking up at 10 in the morning? We'll be back.